Breaking: Natanz nuclear facility has been hit. Hezbollah is back in the war. And with 6 Americans dead, this conflict just crossed a line that could ignite the entire region within hours. Donald Trump went on ABC News and said something that stopped people in their tracks. He was asked about who would lead Iran now that Khamenei was dead. And Trump said the attack was so successful, it knocked out most of the candidates. He said, "It is not going to be anybody that we were thinking of because they are all dead. Second or third place is dead too." Think about what that means. The United States and Israel did not just kill the supreme leader of Iran. They killed the people who were supposed to replace him. They killed the backups. They killed the contingency plans. 48 senior Iranian leaders are confirmed dead. And the man who ordered the bombing is now telling the world that Iran does not have an obvious next leader because America and Israel eliminated them all. This is day 4 of a war that started 4 days ago and has already changed the shape of the Middle East for a generation. I am going to take you through every major development since my last video. There is a lot. Hezbollah has re-entered the war. The Natanz nuclear site has been hit. 6 American soldiers are dead. Lebanon's own government has tried to ban Hezbollah from fighting. The Dow Jones dropped over 500 points. And Trump says this war is going to last 4 to 5 more weeks. Let us start from the beginning of what changed in the last 48 hours. The biggest military development that most people have not fully processed yet is what happened to Natanz. Natanz is not just any target. Natanz is Iran's primary uranium enrichment facility. It is the site that has been at the center of every nuclear negotiation for the last 20 years. It is buried deep underground specifically because Iran built it to survive airstrikes. During the 12-day war in June 2025, the U.S. used bunker buster bombs in Operation Midnight Hammer and damaged 3 nuclear sites, setting Iran's program back by an estimated 2 years. Now, Natanz has been hit again. According to multiple reports confirmed by Iranian state sources, U.S. and Israeli strikes struck the Natanz nuclear site during this campaign. The IAEA said it was closely monitoring developments and that as of now there is no evidence of radiological impact. But this is a critical qualifier. No radiological impact right now does not mean the facility is intact. It means the strikes did not cause a nuclear incident. It says nothing about the structural damage to the enrichment infrastructure. If Natanz has been significantly damaged or destroyed in this round, then Iran's path to a nuclear weapon has not been set back 2 years. It may have been set back a decade. That is what the U.S. and Israel mean when they say the goal is to prevent Iran from ever getting a nuclear weapon. Natanz being hit is not a side operation. It may be the central objective of this entire campaign. Now let us talk about the leadership vacuum, because Trump's ABC News comments opened a completely different dimension to this story. Before the strikes, intelligence analysts had identified a short list of people likely to succeed Khamenei if he died or became incapacitated. Khamenei himself had reportedly spent time during the June 2025 12-day war preparing a succession plan. According to the New York Times, his top picks were 3 men: his chief of staff Ali Asghar Hijazi, Supreme Court Chief Justice Gholam Hussein Mohseni AJ, and Hassan Khamenei, the grandson of the founder of the Islamic Republic. Israel confirmed to the Times that it killed Hijazi in the strikes. That is Kham's first choice for successor dead. Trump told Fox News that 48 senior Iranian leaders were killed in total. He told ABC that the attack was so successful it eliminated most of the candidates. Second and third place, in his words, are also dead. So who is left? The name that is emerging most strongly right now is Hassan Khamenei. He is the grandson of Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, the man who led the 1979 revolution and created the Islamic Republic. He is a mid-level cleric. He has never held major public office, but his name carries enormous symbolic weight in Iran because of who his grandfather was. After the June 2025 strikes, Reuters reported he had already emerged as a frontrunner. He is described as relatively reformist. He has reportedly said publicly that sometimes dignity is born through war and sometimes through negotiation. That is a notably different posture from the hardliners who surrounded Khamenei. But there is a critical problem with Hassan Khomeini. His grandfather founded a theocratic system built on the concept of at-Ayaki, the guardianship of the Islamic jurist. The supreme leader is supposed to be a grand ayatollah with deep religious credentials. Hassan Khomeini does not yet have those credentials. Selecting him would require either bending the rules of the system or finding a way to give him the legitimacy the position demands. And the IRGC, which is the most powerful surviving institution in Iran right now, has its own preferences. This brings us to the contradictions at the heart of Iran's situation right now. Publicly, Ali Larijani posted on his social media account, "We will not negotiate with the United States." In another post, he wrote, "Trump has betrayed America first to adopt Israel first." He called Trump's actions a sacrifice of American treasure and blood to advance Netanyahu's expansionist ambitions. These are not the words of a man preparing to come to the table. But at the same time, the White House told reporters that Iran wants to restart negotiations and that Trump will eventually speak with whoever ends up in charge. And Trump himself told The Atlantic that Iran's new leadership has expressed interest in talking. He said they want to talk and I have agreed to talk. So I will be talking to them. Two completely opposite messages coming out simultaneously. Analysts at the Soufan Center explained this contradiction clearly. They said that until a permanent supreme leader is chosen, any diplomatic signals from Tehran are tactical positioning, not a genuine strategic shift. The three people on Iran's Interim Leadership Council have markedly different ideological orientations. The president, Masoud Pezeshkian, is relatively moderate. The judiciary chief, Gholam Hussein Mohsani, AJ, is deeply conservative. The third member is the Expediency Council scholar. Getting these three to agree on anything as fundamental as whether to negotiate with the United States while bombs are still falling is functionally impossible. Meanwhile, Larijani, who controls the security apparatus, is not even formally on the council. He is operating through the Supreme National Security Council, which controls the military and intelligence. And his strategy, according to Soufan Center analysts, is to sustain a war of attrition, keep fighting, keep raising the cost for the United States and Israel, keep pressuring America's Gulf allies, build enough pain that Trump eventually looks for an off-ramp. This is exactly what Iran did in the 12-day war in June 2025. Iran's foreign minister Abbas Araghi said it directly. He drew the comparison explicitly. He told journalists that in June 2025, the U.S. and Israel expected Iran to capitulate in 2 or 3 days. It took 12 days for them to understand Iran was not surrendering, and they had no option but to ask for an unconditional ceasefire. He said, "I do not see any difference between this time and the previous time." This is Iran's narrative framing, and it is important. Iran is telling its own people in the world that they survived the last war and they will survive this one. They are anchoring expectations to the 12-day precedent because that precedent ended with a ceasefire that Iran can characterize as a victory of endurance. But there are two enormous differences between June 2025 and now. The first difference is in June 2025, the supreme leader survived. He was the center of gravity that held the system together. Now he is gone. The system has no center, and 48 other senior leaders are dead with him. The second difference is the explicit goal. In June 2025, the stated objective was destroying Iran's nuclear program. This time, Trump said plainly on his first night that the purpose is regime change. He called on IRGC members to lay down their arms and merge with Iranian patriots. He told Iranians to take back their country. This is not a surgical strike campaign. This is the opening of something much larger. And the U.S. has committed to 4 to 5 weeks of operations minimum. Now, the front that nobody wanted to open, Lebanon. On the night of March 1st, Hezbollah fired rockets at northern Israel for the first time since the November 2024 ceasefire. Hezbollah said the attack was revenge for the killing of Supreme Leader Qais. This broke a ceasefire that had held for more than a year. Israel's response was immediate and severe. The IDF launched airstrikes across southern Beirut and the BOA Valley. Lebanese health authorities reported at least 31 people killed and 149 wounded in Israeli strikes, the vast majority in southern Lebanon. Israel also killed Abu Hamza Rami, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad commander for Lebanon, in a targeted strike in Beirut. The Israeli military explicitly framed these strikes as part of Operation Roaring Lion, the same operation against Iran, saying Hezbollah was operating on behalf of the Iranian regime and bringing ruin to Lebanon. Here is where the situation became truly extraordinary. Lebanon's own government, led by Prime Minister Nawaf Salam, announced that it would ban Hezbollah's military and security activities. The Lebanese cabinet said that decisions of war and peace rest solely with the Lebanese state. They directed security and military agencies to prevent any further rocket or drone launches from Lebanese territory. They said Hezbollah must hand over all its weapons to the Lebanese state. Think about what this means. Lebanon's government is now formally trying to disarm Hezbollah during a moment when Hezbollah just fired rockets at Israel. The Lebanese government is essentially taking Israel's side in demanding that Hezbollah stop fighting. And Hezbollah, which has previously said it will only disarm after a full Israeli withdrawal from Lebanon, has no obvious reason to comply with anything, while the Iran war is actively ongoing. Lebanon is now in an impossible position. Its government does not want war. Its most powerful armed group just started one, and Israel is bombing it. Anyway, let us talk about what this war is costing everyone, because the financial dimension of this story is enormous. Markets opened on Monday and immediately dropped. Dow Jones futures fell 521 points. S&P 500 futures lost 1%. Nasdaq fell more than 1%. Japan's Nikkei dropped 1.2%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng opened down. These are not small movements. These are the beginning of what happens when a region that supplies 20% of the world's oil goes to war. Brent crude jumped 9% on Monday to $79.41 per barrel. U.S. crude rose more than 8% to $72.57. Gold climbed 2% as investors moved into safe haven assets. The 10-year Treasury yield fell to its lowest point in 11 months at 3.926% as investors moved out of equities and into bonds. But here is what the markets have not fully priced in yet. Most of Monday's movement was reacting to the initial attack over the weekend. The markets have not yet absorbed the Natanz strike. They have not fully priced in Hezbollah re-entering the war. They have not priced in Trump saying this lasts 4 to 5 weeks. Every single day this conflict continues. The risk premium on oil stays elevated or rises. Goldman Sachs had already added a $6 war risk premium before any of this started. The ships are still anchored. 150 tankers and LNG carriers sitting in open water near the Strait of Hormuz, waiting to see if they can move. Shell BP and major Danish shipping companies have suspended crossings. Qatar's LNG, which heats homes in Germany, Japan, and South Korea, is sitting in tankers that cannot move. The longer this lasts, the more this becomes an energy crisis that reaches into every economy on Earth. Now let us talk about the American soldiers who have died, because this is where the political pressure on Trump starts to build in ways he cannot fully control. 6 American service members have now been confirmed killed in action. Trump acknowledged earlier that American casualties are likely and said the U.S. would press forward regardless. He said the U.S. has capability to go far longer than 4 to 5 weeks if needed. But 6 dead soldiers in 4 days with 4 to 5 more weeks of operations planned means this number is going to grow. Congress held its first classified briefings on Tuesday. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, CIA Director John Ratcliffe, and the chairman of the Joint Chiefs all briefed both the House and Senate. But the political questions are already being asked out loud. Representative Thomas Massie has said he will force a congressional vote on war authorization. Senator Mark Kelly said he agrees was a destabilizing force, but criticized the lack of any plan for what comes next. Brian Finane at the International Crisis Group called this operation illegal under U.S. domestic law because Congress never authorized it. Spain refused to allow the United States to use its bases for strikes on Iran. Turkey publicly criticized the operation. Secretary of Defense Hegseth complained that some traditional U.S. allies are, in his words, hemming and hawing about the use of force. France and the UK have both taken Iranian strikes on their military facilities in the region, including a British base in Cyprus that was hit by an Iranian drone at midnight on March 1st. But Russia and China are united in condemnation. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi called the U.S. and Israeli strikes unacceptable, called the killing of a sovereign country's leader an assassination, and demanded an immediate ceasefire. Putin called Kamana's killing a murder committed in cynical violation of all norms of human morality and international law. Russia's foreign ministry demanded an immediate return to political and diplomatic dialogue. This is not just moral outrage. China is watching Iran the same way they watched Afghanistan and Iraq and Libya. They are watching to understand what the U.S. does to countries that cannot stop it. And they are watching how the rest of the world responds to an operation that has no UN authorization, no congressional authorization, and no coalition mandate. Melania Trump made history on Monday by presiding over the United Nations Security Council, the first First Lady ever to do so. She was expected to emphasize education and technology in promoting lasting peace. This happened on the same day that 6 American soldiers were confirmed dead and Israel was bombing Beirut. The optics are extraordinary in ways that defy easy description. At the Security Council, U.S. Ambassador Mike Waltz strongly denied that the strikes violated international law. He made the case that Iran's ongoing nuclear program and support for proxy militias constituted a threat that justified military action under America's inherent right of self-defense. No resolution was passed because the U.S. has veto power and used it. But the diplomatic isolation of the U.S. and Israel in the body that is supposed to govern global security has never been more visible. Let me put this all together and tell you where things actually stand. On day 4, Iran is still fighting. Larijani says no negotiations, but something reached out to Trump, and Trump says he will talk. The contradiction will resolve itself in the coming days, one way or the other. The succession crisis is unresolved. Hassan Khamenei is the emerging frontrunner, but the assembly of experts, which must formally select the new leader, is trying to convene under active bombing. The IRGC has its own preferences and its own guns until a new supreme leader is confirmed. Iran cannot make a strategic decision about war or peace. Hezbollah is back in the fight. Lebanon's government is trying to stop them. This is going to fail unless Israel and Iran both stop. Neither is stopping. Natanz has been struck. The nuclear dimension of this conflict has now been addressed, at least partially. Whether it has been addressed decisively will determine whether this war ends with a transformed regional order or simply a pause before the next round. 6 Americans are dead. Trump says 4 to 5 more weeks. The math is uncomfortable. Oil is at $79 and rising. 150 tankers are still waiting. If Hormuz stays disrupted for 2 more weeks, analysts say $100 per barrel is not a ceiling. It is a milestone on the way to something higher. And somewhere in Thrawn, in a country that is simultaneously mourning, celebrating, bombing its neighbors, and trying to choose a new supreme leader, a decision is being made that will determine whether this ends in weeks or turns into something that reshapes not just the Middle East, but the entire global order. I will be here covering every development as it breaks. If you are new to this channel, subscribe, hit the notification bell. This story is the most consequential foreign policy moment in a generation, and it is moving faster than any single news organization can track alone. My job is to make sense of it for you every single day until it resolves. We are only on day